What time is it? It is Blue Clock Pod Talk on Mondays at 7 p.m., where we talk about business development, day-to-day lives, and motivation. This is Season 1, Episode 5. And before we get started on this, be sure to comment down in the comment section. Tell us what you all like to hear on these shows. If you'd like to be a part of this show, go to blueclock.podtalk@outlook.com. That's blueclock.podtalk@outlook.com. And I am so excited to announce this episode. We're going to talk about quality control. We're going to talk about what businesses looks like when we're running them. And I'm super excited to announce Davis Bailey, my good friend with B&B Comfort Solutions. I think I said that right, B&B Comfort Solutions. Y'all welcome Davis down in the comment sections. We're going to kill this music. Shout out to Travis Tripp with Blue Collar Man for our theme song out there tonight. Davis, what's going on, man? How are you today?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Hey, we had a good, successful sermon at church, and it was a good time, good weather, beautiful weather. And this has been, it's supposed to happen for, 2 weeks now? And we finally got it going, man. So, glad to be here, man.
Man, I'm super excited to launch this episode. I think there's a lot of people that's going to make fun of us because they said, man, this episode is probably going to be the most lengthiest episode that we ever do.
Because you like to talk, man, not me. I'm not a talker, you know that?
Well, I think we both like to talk. That's the problem. But I think David, I've never met anybody that can out-talk me. But Davis can talk so much that I can fall asleep and then I'll wake back up from a nap and he's still talking to me. So. But no, it's going to be a great episode, man. I kind of want to share with everybody like what you do, what field you work in. Tell them about your business, your day-to-day life, what it looks like on a normal basis, and we'll kind of kick it off with that. And man, we'll walk in quality control. And look, I'm fair warning you. This episode may go sideways. We may go off the deep end. It's going to be one of the most fun we've ever had on the episode. Not saying that the other ones wasn't fun. It's just going to be a good time tonight. But Davis, tell the audience what you do, just what your business is all about and all that good stuff.
So I'm a co-owner of a HVAC business. It's me and my stepbrother, B&B Comfort Solutions, and we service all the areas around Hardin County, Grayson, Hart, Breckenridge, Meade, but we do service, installation, new constructions, retrofit. If your home is, say it's a 1950 home and there was no thought of central heating and air in it, we can help you out with that and try to go out the best way we can and provide you a quality system and keep your home at a better rate where you can actually get some air, humidity control, resist mold, stuff like that. But
he's going to sweat, purge, and roll, baby. That's what he's going to do.
That's right. Well, we're not associated with Mr. Fat Cheeto. So. Funny guy though, man. Trent Parker, check him out. He's funny guy. But yeah, we do a small company. We do all sales, service, everything. So our we stay pretty busy, but also we're a growing business too. So, but we really enjoy it and enjoy taking care of our customers and learning the industry.
What I like about it so much is that he's so expensive. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's he's saved my butt twice this past year. So once in the wintertime, we had snow on the ground, and I remember I followed him out of the holler that we live in down here. And we didn't have heat, and we had just a young little boy of ours, and he came in, man, on was it a Friday, Saturday? I can't remember.
It was I think it was a Friday. It may have been a Friday. I think it was during the week because it was that big snowstorm that hit.
Yeah, but he come in, man, and he really saved our butt in the wintertime. And then I came home one night and. From work, and it was super hot in the house. Poor kids had sweat rolling off their faces and stuff. And I said, hey, man, no rush, but guess what? We ain't got no AC now either. So he came out and helped us out. But y'all go check them out, B&B Solutions, dude. They're a great company. They really do take care of you. There's a lot of companies out there that kind of want to take advantage of you. But, man, he has just been a godsend really to to my HVAC needs. I mean, a whole lot. So, speak of HVAC, man, well, I'm gonna go right into it. I wanna talk about like the let's talk about parts. Let's talk about the things that you need to get somebody up and going again. I know it's we're both in the service industry.
Yes, of course.
And so, mine's the automotive world and that kind of area, and yours is the HVAC and in the home service industry world. Let's talk about parts and the quality of parts and the direction that it's going in. But what's your thoughts on that?
Well, the direction of the quality of parts is pretty much in one direction. It's south. It ain't north. It's just seems like everything is, and you hear it, from especially people that are, we're in that 30s age group, but you hear from people that are in the 50s and 60s age group. They talk about appliances or home heating systems or vehicles even. They say, oh well, back in the 80s, back in the 70s, they don't make them like that.
Yep.
And you see that meme on Facebook. There's a lot of truth to it. It says, I think it goes like, I am a olive green 1981 refrigerator freezer combo. I will outlive you. I will outlive your children, your grandchildren. And there's some truth to that because we have an overflow refrigerator in our garage that came from my old house, previous to the house we moved into, and it was, I think the data plate, that thing is still running. The data plate's like 87 or 86, and my parents had bought it, got a really good deal on it. And I'd actually, when I was in the process of selling my old house, I was fixing it up, put a new appliance package in. So I unplugged that refrigerator, set it in the garage for 2, maybe 3 years. And when we moved into our home, we built a home. We moved into our home. It was during COVID. So, the whole can't get washer, can't get dryer because the manufacturing jobs have been shut down, for a lengthy amount of time. So, we weren't producing the things that we needed. So I told my wife, I said, this is going to be fun. So we lived in a brand new house.
With 1987 appliances.
Yeah, 1987 refrigerator, man. And I told my wife, I said, oh, I'm praying to God that this thing works. And I said it did when I unplugged it, So we cleaned, the mouse poop and pee out of it. We've been sitting out in the shop, at my old house.
That makes good for dinner there.
Oh, yeah, that's that seasoning, man. That's that seasoning. But yeah, I set it up and let all the oil drain back down in the compressor, And I think we moved in at it took us 2 days, but we got the final move in at 3 in the morning. And I had a good friend of mine with me that works with me. And he was helping me out, and kind of like one of those Tracy Lawrence lines, find out who your friends are, How about, help you come move your 1987 heavy refrigerator at 3 in the morning, So good friend of mine, but I told him, I was like, we're going to set that down. And next morning, we stayed at our house that night. The next morning, I plugged it in, and with my mother and my aunt had came over, my mom's sister. They came over to see the house and walk through it before we started, unpacking everything, and total chaos, tornado hit the house, And I said, hold on, let me plug this refrigerator in. Well, I took him around the house, showed him down the basement, the main floor, the bedrooms and stuff, and the back porch outside, the view. And we walked out, and we may have been there maybe an hour and a half, and there was no product in the fridge. When I got out there, I opened that refrigerator door, man, and it felt like you walked into a meat cooler. I was like, wow, man. I'm like, they, just like the old folks say, they don't make them like they used to, man.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing had been sitting, and, it still runs today, man. So it's actually going in my shop, where I keep all my stuff. I'm getting ready to hopefully get to where you're at, man, get the electric on and, get everything all finished up there.
So maybe it's an 80s thing, man. I don't know what it is, because my first full-size pickup truck I ever had was a 1986 Chevy C10.
Yeah.
And, dude, that thing was a tank. Now, I went through several different engines because I was an idiot and thought I had a hot rod of a truck and could drag race everybody in a 350 engine that literally has a little over 200 horsepower in it. But, as this young and dumb, we all go through that. But, man, that thing was a tank. I mean, it was built out of steel. It was built out of, cast iron frame, the whole 9 yards. And Kind of like nowadays, man. You know, the product nowadays, I just feel like it's really went downhill. The quality of cars are like a tin can anymore. You know, it's almost like pot metal. You know, is what it's
Yeah,
made out
yeah,
of, and you can barely just tap the side of it, and it's going to fall apart or put a dent in it.
for sure.
When before you had a all steel fender and somebody hits that thing, the only thing it's damaging is the fender. You know,
There was a lot of hurt people back then.
yeah, yeah, there was, man. And so I don't know. You know, nowadays I hate to say it, but they're like throwaway cars. You know what
They
I mean?
are, yeah.
And I feel like all the product is kind of like that now. Me and you were talking about. We were talking about my unit, my house. It's a junk unit. I mean, we've done come to the conclusion of that because, you know, and I can kind of see it. You know, we're starting to see. You know, we had to put a brand new motherboard kind of in it and the heating system, and then now we're having issues out of the cooling system to where it's starting the plate, the where the cool and everything is starting to rust out, and the coils around it starting to rust. So we're limping by until we need a new unit. But I mean, let's talk about that, man. Kind of compared to the old units to kind of what they look like now, and the stuff that you're running into that you're just like, man, yeah, some of this stuff's junk, and you know the quality control and letting them slip out the door the way that they are. You were telling me about some of that quality control stuff too, to where on these certain units to where they just kind of just send them out the door even though they know that they have issues with, or they ship them with Freon or something. You were telling me about
Yeah,
that.
there's a particular brand, name no names, right?
Yeah.
But there's a particular brand that is known as a leaking system. They used to be a Rockstar unit. I've got some that before a certain corporate manufacturer got in with them and bought them out and then turned the product into junk. I've got some of those units that are from like the late 90s, and you know I've had to replace some parts on them. I mean, you're going to have to put a coil in something that's from 1997 or 96.
Right.
Eventually it's going to wear a hole out in it. You're talking something that's got a consistent amount of pressure. Running through the piping. I mean, it's man-made. We all fail at one point. But
And when we talk about my unit's less than 10 years old, guys. I think it's a 7-year-old unit, right? Or
Yeah.
8-year-old unit, something like
see,
that.
what's your house? 2017 or 18?
Yeah, something like
So
that.
it's 6-7 years old. Yeah.
And so that's where he's talking about, the 90s stuff versus nowadays stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's just quality in general. And there's no sense really in skimping other than greed. I mean, it's corporate greed. So if they can save a quarter on a unit, and I get it, it turns out to $1 million after so many units, but a lot of corporate greed, and in reality, you should be putting, in my opinion, you should be putting a product out because the customer is paying a lot of money. I mean, you're talking, if you're fortunate enough that you can drop, $5-6 grand on a new heating system. But most people in this economy, they can't. I mean, so they have to take a loan out or finance, and and I tell them, I literally had a conversation. So you kind of hit on it there, but I did a new system install change out Friday, and the guy asked me. He said, "Well, this should last my lifetime." And I looked at him. I said, "Well, it's warranted for 10 years. So I said, if you make it past that time without a major failure, I'm like, hopefully it fails during the warranty time. But, you're 45 years old, buddy. I hope you don't plan on going soon in the next 10 to 15 years because that's the life of these units,
Oh, yeah.
And, and we take proper steps, on that particular system. They had some ductwork leakage and stuff. That was going down in a crawl space. It was a double wide, but so you pretty much crawl space, and a lot of air was leaking out of it. So I took the time to patch it up best I could, seal it up using mastic, rolled mastic tape, all that. Get it to where it's not leaking air, off the rip right there off the unit.
Right.
But it's just the quality of stuff, man, and that's why I have to tell customers all the time. I say, hey, look, we warranty your unit for you for 10 years. We do everything for you online. That's part of our fee as, if you go with us on a new installation. I'm going to take care of that for you. Some companies will tell you, hey, you got to do it yourself, but it takes me 5 minutes and it's free.
Right.
So you get them extra 5 years, and then we also offer 1 year on a new system. So, but I tell them that, hey, look, some companies aren't doing it, some companies are, we are. So, but yeah, I mean, it seems like when I first got into heat and air on my own per se for kind of running my own scale biz. Everybody starts out moonlighting, and but I some of those systems that I've put in, I've got some that are 10 years old, and I've replaced minimal parts on them.
Yeah.
But these newer systems, same brand, I'm having to replace coils on them, or something that shouldn't go wrong within a year. And it's like, man, it's like even the more reputable brand of equipment is having more failure rates, and you just look at it, you see what's coming off the line, you unbox this stuff, and I kind of noticed, like, the cabinets, like you were talking about, everything now is kind of like pig metal, cheap metal. Back then you had cast, you had iron. This metal now, I mean, if it's not coddled and babied on a ship, and if it's not coddled and babied in a factory, and I mean, if a aggressive, mad forklift driver goes and takes off with it and is not easy with it, you got a bowed cabinet or a dented-in cabinet. But it's sad to see what it's going towards.
Well, some of it, man, what I'm noticing too is like, you got inflation. That's part of some of the stuff. So they use that. I don't want to say for an excuse, but you've got inflation. So now they're increasing the price of the product is astronomical compared to what it used to be. Say even 10 years ago.
Yep.
And then now they've increased the price of the product of what you used to be able to get it for, and then they decrease the quality of what the product is.
Yes.
So they're looking for basically, and it could be part of the old materials. They have also increased. So for them to even be profitable on the back end, well, I say profitable. Some of them are just plain out greedy. But, for them to even be as much as profitable as what they used to be, they're getting this cheaper material, making the cheaper product, and they're still charging the same, if not more, and gaining the same amount of money on the back end for the profits. Man, I'll be honest with you, as a company, and small business owner, I want to be that one business, and I know you're the same way when I say this, is go back to good quality. Mm-hmm. Go back to, like, providing it. Now, we can only do that so far because of the parts and products that we have access to. So, if the whole world is turning to this cheap throwaway product, well, hey, look, we can stand behind as much as we can as business owners and things like that, but we can only do that so far because if there's nowhere to access, because we can't manufacture it ourselves. We're the service guys. We're the service people. We're not in manufacturing. I mean, maybe that's something we need to look into, Davis. maybe we need to look into getting into manufacturing and business and developing parts and products. And I don't know, but I think it's just this vicious cycle. But at the end of the day, with the resources that we have, I want to be able to give the top line of the resources and have overconsumption of customers instead of having one customer and trying to take it all from one customer versus have multiple customers and make a small amount of income off those people. Yeah. Just enough to get by. I don't have to be greedy. You know what I mean? One of my mottos at the shop, and I express severely to my guys, is we always give more than we take. Always. Mm-hmm. And always put out a very good product. That way the customer, I don't only want that customer, but I want that customer's family. I want that customer's friends. I want all of them. So I'm not trying to knock them in the head all at once, trying to get everything that I can get them, suck them dry for, Yep. My thing is I want them to return. I want their family to come. I want them to tell everybody about us. And that's the way it should be. But anymore, I don't think we live like that anymore, man. I really don't. I think it's like, give me, let me suck everybody dry for everything that I can get it for, especially these, and I hate to say that, for these bigger box companies and things like that. And I do feel like we're in that kind of greed mentality currently. And I just hope there's more people like you and I that tries to start slowly transitioning and changing that. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't just sell, HVAC service, and also sell honesty and integrity.
Oh
Like you say, you want whoever coming in there, you want nephew to tell dad, and then to tell his uncle, and to tell his grandma, and to tell his grandpa, and to tell his other cousins about you, because it means something for that car to come in the shape it was in, and then for it to leave better out of your shop, with whatever the problem was fixed. And it's I'm seeing a lot of it kind of don't give a crap mentality too. And jerry rigging things. It's like there's a place and a time for it. If you got something maybe of your own or something, or if somebody is very limited in budget.
Yeah.
But there's certain things where if I go do a job and the budget's just not there, because it takes a certain amount of money to do what you need to do, and a reasonable amount of money, not $20,000 to replace your tire and your battery and maybe a windshield wiper.
Right.
But it's honesty and integrity is a big thing, and that goes into quality too, because if you're selling a quality product, then there's honesty and integrity with it. And I see that every day, man. I see it every day. But your name on something means something. It should. And some people don't really care. Some people don't really care to tarnish their name. But it's I think that goes in with quality as well too. But just as far as the other thing too, I wanted to bring up, is with the drop in quality of things, what's per se. When you were doing this, what maybe a product that you used to put in and it was really good 5-10 years ago, and you're still using it today, but you noticed a drop in it? I mean, is that an occurrence for you?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we had talked about recently, especially on one of the recent podcasts, is kind of the direction where we're heading in the automotive industry is the electrical world. So a lot of issues that we have or starting to have now is in your electrical components. There's a lot of major drop in those quality of parts. And so, 10, 15 years ago, you'd be able to buy a sensor, or you'd be able to buy, say, a crankshaft sensor or something like that. Or I'll tell you an example. We had worked on this truck. This was probably about 2 years ago, and we ordered a crank sensor in for it. Well, we go and you think a brand new part, you shouldn't have to test, right? You should be able to insert it into the vehicle. It's going to run properly. It's going to do fine. Well, we go and we insert this crank sensor, and it's still having the same issue. And we're like, we know the crank sensor was bad on this thing. What is going on? So we go and we test it with scopes, and we also test it by a resistance test and everything. Everything looks good on it. Well, on this one, it actually has a magnetized end on the end of it, and it reads revolutions on the crank, and that's what gives it a crank signal. It sends it to the PCM and allows it to fire. Well, man, we get the sensors brand new. Well, come to find out, we just checked. We're like, you know what? We hadn't checked this yet, and we checked to see if it had any magnetism, I guess is the word that I'm looking for, in the end of the sensor. And we used a little paper clip just to check it, and then hold it upside down. Come to find out, it was demagnetized. So it got somewhere into some kind of force or something, or maybe it left the factory without someone checking to see if it was
magnetized properly.
And it wasn't. So we ordered another sensor. Come to find out, even that aftermarket sensor, which I'm not going to name any aftermarket part names because I don't want to get sued on this podcast, but the same company, and we said, hey, why don't we go ahead and warranty this sensor out? This thing's bad, and we'll explain to you why. And we try to test everything before we try to say, oh, yeah, this is the problem. We're very just thorough with our work. So we sent it back, and we told them exactly like what was going on. When they said, all right, we're going to send you another one. So they sent us another one, the same exact issue. Well, I said, you know what? I'm not even going to send it back to them yet. I'm going to go ahead and order one, but from the actual OE manufacturer themselves. It was a Dodge product is what it was, which I can name big box, the big three, Dodge, Chevy, Ford, that's fine. But so I actually ordered the part from Dodge is where it was from. It's crank sensors through them. Come to find out, it checked out great. We checked it, and then I took a video of it just so they knew we weren't BSing them of what was wrong with it. So I sent them a video, hey, this is demagnetized. This one is actually magnetized, and it works now. We inserted the crank sensor. Hey, it tested good, fired right up, truck ran great, So, but, yeah, I mean, electrical components, man, a major issue right now. I think they're doing really good with some of the hard mechanical parts that are out there. And we found some reputable companies that we can trust to install them on that. But right now, even we've noticed a drop in the OE parts in the electrical components. We noticed a drop in quality in the aftermarket part world. Honestly, it's almost non-existent in the aftermarket world. I mean, it's literally – so we had to stop working on 7.3 Power Stroke trucks because, one, it's becoming a 10-year trying to think of the name for it, obsolete kind of part. It's basically discontinued. That's the word that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So it's if it's not 10 years or newer, they're discontinuing parts for these types of vehicles. But now the aftermarket world, they're still making parts for these trucks. Well, in this aftermarket industry, I had bought a sensor that was wrong with this truck. It was an IPR valve is what it was, an injection pressure regulator sensor for this 7.3. It goes underneath the in the valley of the engine, kind of next to your pump and everything there. But so we installed this thing. Well, the customer, he calls me up 3 months later and says, hey, man, I'm having the same issue again with my truck. I don't know what's going on with it. Well, we bring in the truck. We come to find out there was an issue with the sensor again. And how this one's made, it's like a dowel rod that comes out, and then it's got a magnet-type solenoid, and then it basically magnetizes to the rod on it. And since it lost its magnet, the solenoid. Well, I think it was an electrical issue. We actually did a resistance test on it and come to find out the solenoid was bad on the sensor. So
got a bad coil on the solenoid or something.
So we ran into this a couple times on different sensors for these trucks and things like that. So, we get a hold of Ford and whatever the OE manufacturer is on some of these vehicles that we work on. They're like, hey, man, we can't even get to, I ran into the other day, it was a 90-something model pickup truck. It was a F-250 is what it was. And it's getting to the point to where you can't even find the front end parts, even the hard mechanical parts for them anymore.
So wheel bearings, stuff like that, or like the sealed hub bearings and everything, are
man,
hard to get a hold of?
Yeah, so what was it? Oh, we were trying to find a pitman arm for the steering gearbox to fix the front end on it on. And they literally said, hey, we can't find one anywhere. Well, then they ended up finding one. It was an aftermarket part. They sent it to us. It was ended up being the wrong one. So we were digging forever to try to find it. So some of this stuff, man, it's I think people get mad and aggravated at us because we're like, hey, look, we're just not working on that type of stuff anymore. It's not because we don't want to work on it. It's not that we don't know how to work on it. Problem is that we don't trust the parts that we're putting on the vehicle. So if we can't trust it, not saying that other people will work on them. I'm sure there's plenty of shops out there that will work on these types of vehicles or pickup trucks or whatever it may be. But we're just not the shop for you, and that's what I tell people. Hey, look, we have a certain standard. We have a certain quality that we want to make sure that leaves here. Hey, and you may get an aftermarket part, throw it on this vehicle. It may last you forever. You might get lucky. But with the things that we've been running into, why in the world would I, as a shop of us, I'd rather you be happy leaving here knowing that part's going to last you for a very long time. Things don't last forever. It's eventually going to fail. Yep. But it's going to last you for what we can stand by it for. Then send you out knowing the part's going to last you 3 months, and then you're going to be mad at me or ticked off at me, when in all reality, it could have been our fault, install fault, maybe. I mean, and if it is, we're going to make it right. But 9 times out of 10, it's the quality of the part that gets installed on the vehicle. And so it's like I just have to draw the line in the sand somewhere, to say, hey, that's not going to be us. I can't do it, and it's – I'm not too prideful to say that because I know if I'm utmost honest and integrity with these customers and admit that to them, well, it's just how the world works, man. It's how God works. He's going to send us more customers to fill that void. and I'm okay with that. You know, I'd rather be, hey, topmost. I'd rather somebody say, hey man, you're expensive, but you're really good. The only thing we want to complain about is that you're a little too high.
Yeah.
I'd rather hear that than be like, dude, your work sucks. You're terrible at what you do. I'm never coming back here again. I'd
Yeah.
rather someone go out and be like, man, they're good at what they do, but gosh dang, they're high, you know. Then,
Yep.
yeah, then put out a quality of like, no, they're a piece of crap, you know. So yeah,
Kind of like that old saying, you know, you buy cheap, you replace twice. You know, it's going to cost you
Yep.
the same as, you know, it did if you bought a quality part. You know, another thing too, though, man, with you know, you talked about it with, you know, you got to make it right. So if you put that part on, you want to sell OEM stuff, and that's
Yep.
the same with me. I try to sell OEM things. We have aftermarket stuff, you know, universal parts. But you know, like for your unit per se, you know, that motherboard, I had to get that OEM through that dealer. You know, nothing else would have worked. You know.
yeah,
But you know, I mean, it's the downside of quality dropping in our industry, the same as yours as mine, is the loss of labor. So that's why your price has to go up. If you see a drop in quality, you know, you have to reinstall that part not once but twice, or I should say install that part, then you have to reinstall it, you know, take it back out, install it again. So, you know, who's going to eat that labor?
yeah,
You know, and of course you have to charge the customer for a little bit of it, but at the same point in time, you know, it's not their fault. You know, I've had jobs where, you know, I've sold a certain equipment, and like you're talking about, you there's a line in the sand. You know, you have to stick with what you think's going to work, and you have to structure your pricing off of, you know, not necessarily your craftsmanship, but the quality of what you're getting, because you might have another whole day in something, and you're out of that wage, you know, and you do that, you know, multiple times a month, you know, multiple times a year. You know, that's a lot of money you've, you know, lost.
absolutely. And I'll give you an example of what kind of happened here recently on a particular vehicle. We had one that came in, and I think we talked about this 2 episodes ago with me, Brian, and Jake that we had in here with the JH Performance. Shout out to Jake, by the way, super good dude. But man, I had a truck that come in, and a lot of people, you know, customers, they have this mentality when it comes to warranty work that you get a full-blown warranty labor check that's getting written out to you. No, that's not how it works at all. So we had an injector failure that happened on the truck, and, you know, here goes the quality of that we're talking about, quality control. And we put a lot of faith in this aftermarket company because we had a lot of good – we buy a lot of engines from them, we buy a lot of transmissions from them, and they started servicing fuel component parts, and we're like, man, we've had great response or great products that you guys are making whenever it comes to the transmission and engine world. Let's give your fuel components a shot too. So we did. And, man, I tell you, this company, they don't write you a full check to fix something if it fails, you know. And so needless to say, this guy, you know, he comes in, and it's a diesel truck, and we explain everything to him. He's still irate, you know, he's still aggravated with us and whatnot. And I just kind of mellow the situation out. Say, hey, man, let me get your truck back here. Let's look at it. And if it's a part issue, we're going to take care of you. And which we did. Well, when it comes time to tear this truck back down, and actually, well, one, we got to spend at least 2 hours of diagnostic time, or at least an hour of diagnostic time to figure out what's going on with it. I have a 7-part video that I made of this warranty job, by the way, just to be safe, because you got to play doctor anymore.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so, and to show the customer, because he thinks you're BSing them and lying to them, but to show the customer, hey, look, this is how honest I am. I'm going to video every step that I do of your truck to show you what's wrong with it. And so we did. And so we found one injector was bad. It was overloading the cylinder and then basically washing down into the crankcase, into the oil crankcase. And so we had to drain everything out and everything. So you know what this company paid us to replace that injector? And keep in mind, the whole engine block's full of fuel now. We're out the oil that we got to drain out of it. We're out the oil filter. We're out brand new fuel filters in it. It costs for 6 hours to replace this one injector, and they write us a warranty check for $75.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah. And so, you know, it's one of those things, and people are like, well, your labor's high or you're this. Well, this is why. It's because we can't trust anybody that's making any parts anymore.
Yeah.
And this is how we're going to cover it. And so now some of the stuff that we do, some of the heavier end stuff, people that spend, $5, $10, whatever, $15,000 plus, we really take care of those customers, and we really take care of all of our customers. But here's the thing: if it's not a super extensive job and it's a sensor replacement or a replacement part like an alternator or a starter or something like that, what people don't realize is we don't get our labor money back off of that. So now whenever we warranty something or we say, hey, guys, look, whenever we do this job, just want to let you know, we make it up front. Hey, this part is covered under warranty, if it's a year, or it's an unlimited warranty that's on, or a lifetime warranty that's on the replacement part. Hey, we're going to give you the warranty of the part, but we will not warranty your labor on that. And the reason why is because, well, the quality of the part is going to fail eventually, and then guess who's got to eat every single bit of that? Like I got insurance bills to pay, I got electric bills to pay at the shop, I got a lease payment I got to pay at the shop. The guy costs me money, it costs fuel. Like I can go on with all these expenses. So unfortunately, that's just how you have to do things. So I'd rather be upfront and honest with that customer first and let them know, he or she know that, hey, this is a situation we're walking into. This is what it entails. And we want to make sure that you understand fully that this is what's covered. And then if you sign that paperwork and you say, hey, okay, then, hey, look, it's on the customer at that point. You know what I mean? And so it's not that we don't want to take care of our customers. It's not that we don't want to be fully honest with them or they think we're shady or whatever that. It's that, hey, we want to take care of you, but we got to take care of ourselves too, because if not, guess what? We ain't going to be here no more.
Lights aren't on.
Yeah.
You can't offer, and since you can't control the quality of your work, and that's that is honestly probably one of the biggest things that people don't understand running a business.
Yeah.
It's not, you run your own business, it's peaches and cream, it's awesome, and it's like, there's certain things that kind of make you second guess doing it, and stuff like, what we're talking about, quality control things, it's like it's stuff out of your realm, but, also, I got a motto, if I'm not going to let the same thing happen more than once, if I need to adjust my pricing to, protect my time and my investment into my business and, it to make me money and me to live off of, and improve my business, then, that's what I need to do. And I'm going to say, we're not the cheap guy neither. Now certain instances, we've talked about it before, if you have a little old granny that comes in and you can tell that she's just had a hard life and maybe she's got something simple, but, you can see that she's got $50 in her pocket. I've done it before with neighbors out where I live at. They're less fortunate. Good people just never had that up in life. And that's where we come in. We're the cheap guy then. But we do a quality job. You lose a little bit on stuff like that, but you can't do that every day. No. And also people kind of, they have that mentality too as well, that they want you to, give them handouts. So that's great, unless we're talking about, a service act where you're going to do something for me and I do something for you. Yeah, that's great. But, when I send we're friends, when I send a car to Travis, two brothers, I've told you many times, hey, just because I'm your friend doesn't mean that, I still want you to do a quality job. I know you are, and whatever the price is, I'm here to support your business, and I want my truck to run quality. I don't want you to skimp because we're friends, and but that's important too as well. But
that's why whenever I get somebody that I know that's in the business world or something, I'm just like, dude, you tell me what the price is. It is what it is.
Yep.
And like let me help take care of you. Which I still, to this day, right now, he's done a service for me that I got to take care of him on, that he keeps refusing, or I'm getting my vehicle to you or something. But still, it's
one of these days it'll show up.
It's still one of those. At the end of the day, though, I mean, in this conversation that we're having, we know how it is when it comes to business owners and things like that. And so we know that, hey, the price is the price.
Yeah.
Why try to beat them down on it, whatever it is? It's like, you tell me what that price is. I know that that's where I'm trusting you because it's your field of what you do. It's nothing that I do. And I'm going to pay you for whatever the service is for that. And honestly, I mean, I wouldn't mind try to do a little more for that company or whatever, because I think as business owners, man, we know how hard it can be.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, it's sometimes like, yeah, okay, my job might not have been as bad as maybe blow schmo down the road, but you're going to get to one of these situations where I know it's going to be difficult, and it's like, hey, look, here is a little extra to help you out because I know what you're going to walk into or whatever. You know, it's things like that. Just because that we have a certain price for our services and stuff doesn't mean that we don't want to help people out. Doesn't mean that, that we don't want to give back. It's like what I try to instill in my guys and the culture and the things that we created at the shop is, one, be a change in the community, and two, I'm going to provide a new start and a new beginning for the whatever employee that comes and walks through my door.
100%.
And now, at the same time, it's like, hey, there's a fine line there too. You know, it's like we can do that. We can be the change. We can provide more, give more than what we take. We can do all those different types of things. But at the same time, it's like nobody's going to abuse that situation either. You know, we're not going to allow that to happen. So, but, you know, the giving heart, all those types of things, I think there's more and more companies, and it's one of this last episode that me and Robert McKenzie talked on, that, you know, there's more and more companies that we're starting to see that's starting to evolve to the small business world like that, to where, hey, we want to help out the community, we want to be a change, and we want to provide top quality for the things that we do.
And you want to be here 10 years from now, not, you know, because you didn't take care of your business and you didn't take care of yourself as well, too. You know, that's, you know, how long are you going to be doing it for? You know, you got to look at the longevity of things as well, too. If you want to be, you know, a stepping stone, you want to be a peer in the community, well, then you need to last, too. You know, we're young, you know, and that's what kind of troubles me as well, too, is the corporate takeover as well, too. And that's where you see a lot of quality control drop, because, you know, these little mom and pop shops, they're going away.
This,
they're going away. And, you know, these corporate buyouts, you know, and I don't blame. I know one fella individual in town that just sold his business. Stand-up guy. I worked for both his uncles. I'm just awesome dude, and he invested in his business. A couple things went his way, and he was able to, you know, build a nice storefront. And, you know, hey, that was probably life-changing money, but, you know, 100% guy deserves it, man, and I don't fault him one bit for selling. Because ultimately, I mean, you know, there's a point in time where, you know, yeah, you want to do this for a living. You have a skill craft, a skilled trade. But at a certain point in time, you know, we still got 20, 30 years left in us. But, you know, when you get into your later 40s, you know, this craft, this trade, it's not easy. It's hard, you know, having to reach up and you know, crack on bolts or loosen bolts or pick things up, you know, where you don't have something that can help you pick up, you know, lift, you know, and, you know, things, you got to look out for yourself, too. Eventually, in the long run, if you want to, everybody's goal, in my opinion, I guess
I call it an exit strategy. That's what I call it.
Exit strategy, retirement view. You know, you want to be able to know that you're going to be taken care of, and your children have, you know, the same opportunity. You know, and but it is sad seeing it, though. It's sad seeing the people sell out because you know that company was ran top tier and good company, good people. I think when corporations take over, they drive out those good people because, you know, they have to pay, you know, higher prices and per se maybe a union gets involved or something in that. Usually not with the corporation side of things, but depending on where you're at, you know, here not so much as it would up north, but you know, it's sad seeing it, and but you know, I mean, there's really nothing we can do about it. And
so what I look at on that, Davis, too, is this is my take on it a little bit of what I see that happens is, you know, you get this person, this individual, and they build an awesome team. They build an awesome company. They put employees in place, and they build great cash flow. Their expenses and expenditures, they look great. their P&L looks great, their balance sheet looks great. All of that stuff looks good, and it looks like a very good, appealing company to a certain corporation. Well, when that happens is a lot of times is you've got a lot of years invested in it. At that point, you're already out of the struggle stage. Now you got a good cash flow and all of this stuff that's happening. And, you may be 10, 15 years after you develop a company. Well, sometimes I've seen it go a couple different ways. Is one, that corporation offers you a buyout for your company because they're looking on the numbers of what the back end is. How profitable can they be on the product that's produced by that company? And then they offer them a buyout for their company with, say, a 5-year, 10-year term of them still running the company, and they're paying them X amount in salary or X amount percentage. So I've seen that, which is probably the best case scenario for that because your passion and vision's still there with that company because the same originated person started that thing. Or also what I'm seeing too is this big corporation or the big buyouts that happen. They build a company, the same scenario, but then they buy this person out for X amount of dollars. They may pay them a little more money, but then they get rid of the person that's running that. They put somebody in that can keep it profitable. Well, what happens is now it doesn't turn into a very passionate business. It becomes a money game at that point. Now you've done lost the passion of the business. You've done lost the quality control of the business. And that's where some of these things, some of these big corporations, they do it just for a write-off because they need to buy a certain company, bring them in, and then it's a tax deduction for them at the end of the year. Or, hey, and I don't think anybody goes in and says, oh, yeah, this is going to last a year. We're going to start a company, it'll last a year. Or we're going to buy this company, it'll last just a year. But what you do is you start seeing this trend start to slowly go downhill after some of those negotiations and transactions that have been made, and then the passion and the quality goes down, and the next thing you know, the company starts to go down. And so, I think it's a sad thing, man. I think it's good for whoever started that business, whoever's trying to make the change, and whoever did make the change. But there's some of these corporations and companies that can throw big money at them, and they're buying them up, soaking in all the, their employees and the revenue, and then next thing you know, it's a big chain again. And, I'm not saying I won't ever sell out. That'd be something that bite me in the butt if I say, I won't ever sell out.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm still young enough. I'm still trying to build a legacy for my kids. I'm still trying to build a name. God hasn't changed my calling. And so I'm still walking in the calling that he's called me to do in this community and what he's going to continue to do. And until I get a different direction, that's when I'm going to do it. But, I didn't open the company and be like, yep, we're going to close within a year, and that's going to be great. I had a fun ride. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think we all go in saying, you know what, I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to do everything I can and see how far we can make it, see what kind of legacy we can build, see how big of a difference we can make it. And a lot of times we do things because we go out on our own because we get tired of, one, either being treated the way that we're being treated for the people that we're working for, or two, we don't agree with the morals or the type of business that they're doing. There's several different things that can factor in. But at the end of the day, man, I just, I want to continue to build legacy companies. Not only that, but to break generational curses from where I've came from and create a very good financial state and inheritance for my kids. Now, they're not going to be handed to them. They're going to learn what hard work is. They're going to learn how to work and how to gain that and how to walk into that road. But I want to be here for a very long time, man, and try to be the change and a smidge of the light in the darkness world. You can have, I think we had a sermon one day where we talked about the world can be pitch black, but if you're just one little light, the world never goes dark.
No, it sure doesn't. Yeah, because there's that glimmer, man, that people see. And I do. You kind of sparked something in me there, and I'm gonna go ahead and say that you'll 100% agree with this, but also to own a business, to put your name out there, you're passionate about it. You're passionate about, and you're prideful. You're putting out a product. You're putting out your labor, your skill, what you've soaked in, what you've learned. And if you don't have that, owning a business is not for you. Yeah, it's not for you. And if you're not good with the public, if you're not wanting to go out there and show that pride, that passion for what you got, for what your community is, and you don't want to be I don't want to say you won't be successful if you're not a peer in the community. You can succeed in it, but to be a big success, and that's important as a business owner, man. There's a lot of when I leave a job, I'm small time. I'm smaller than you, business, and when I leave a job, some of my guys are like, let's just get the crap out of here, man. I'm like, let's go home. I'm like, no, man, we still got things to do. Like, there's certain things. They're like, everything's done. And I'm like, did you go around? Did you pick up wire clippings, and stuff like that? Because I'm not, they didn't hire a grub worm to come in there and change their unit out and leave a mess everywhere, Yeah. They hired me to come in there, and I told them that I was going to leave their house with the new efficient system, and it was going to be clean, and it's pretty much the way it looked before I got there. Sometimes we leave certain houses cleaner than what they were before. Sometimes my guys are like, "Do we even need to get the shop back out with this one, boss?" I'm like, "Yeah, just go ahead and get it out." I'm like, "It's gonna be clean. We're not gonna leave our mess here. Our name's here. The system's here.
Sometimes you gotta clean your way in to even change the unit.
I've been in some nasty ones. So, but
not naming anything, but just
yeah. There's been some gross ones, but I will say that is probably as a business owner, the downside of the service side of things with residential is going into people's homes. There's certain homes that, you go into and you're like, whoa, man, and me and my wife, we're not, the cleanest people. We try to be, you've been in our house. We got 2 dogs, we're blue collar people, but
you live comfortably, right?
We live comfortably. Yeah.
Not dirty and then filth, but just comfortable.
Just comfortably. Yeah. Because we have it's like the sermon today was. This picture perfect world. It exists on Instagram, it exists on Facebook and TikTok, but does it really exist when you go walk into their world?
All the gray walls, white couches, and all
that. Yeah. But yeah, I've been into some that are whoo-wee, man. I'm just like. And you stay humble, but there's been a few I've told the people, hey, look, we're not coming back till you clean it up, because at the end of the day, you also, there's with integrity, but respect. I respect my employees. I don't want to put them in a position that I don't want to put myself in. So if I don't want to be there, then they don't want to be there, and they shouldn't be there. I don't put my employees or myself in a position where it's unsafe or something of that nature, because with the world we live in today, drug use, you never know. We do a lot of rentals. You may walk up there, maybe somebody just totally and completely whacked out of their mind, until they leave or a tenant comes and they're like, hey, it's safe to enter, and this guy's in the room, or female or whatever. I've had some interesting adventures in heating and air on the residential side of things.
I hate to say it, but sometimes, when you're going into, I'd say, and not to speak for you, but I know with us, we deal with personal property too, with people's vehicles and the way that they look when you climb in them, and and not saying that there's anything bad about it, but you kind of learn to turn on tunnel vision.
Mm-hmm.
You turn on, hey, I'm getting in the seat, I'm getting the car in here, I'm going to work on this car, and you try to put blinders on what's around you. And
I'm not going to look around.
Yeah, and you just focus on what it's intended for, what you're there for, what your service is for. And not saying that there's and it's, not everybody's like that. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that sometimes you just got to click the switch of tunnel vision, and I try not to let some of those things bother me. You know what I mean? It's like
it's a 1 out of 100 thing. That's what it is.
Well, it's too, and I'll be honest with you, is sometimes it's you just want to respect their property. You never know what the situations the person's going through or anything like that. So it's like, you know what? They're here for help. Yeah. So, or they called you for help, in your instance, and you would come there to fix whatever they need fixed. And you do your job and you leave and you go on about your day, and some of that stuff. And, if they bring it up, then I would be like, hey, it's no big deal. Do you need help with anything or whatever, and then you maybe help provide some kind of direction in that sense. But yeah, I mean, the worst thing you can do is like it's. I had an issue a little bit at one time with an employee, and they would show up with a particular car or their particular brand of vehicle. And man, he was so quick to say, "Oh man, man, that car right there, it's a piece of junk." You know, he would say that in front of him. Dude, some of the most valued things that people have is their home and their car.
Yeah,
That's the
100%.
most top value of things.
Yep.
Hey, it may be you may know that there's issues with that car because in the back of your head, that particular model you've worked on for so many times, and you know the issues that it comes with. But at the end of the day, that person probably very prideful about that car. They
Exactly.
appreciate that car. Yeah, they know it might have issues and things like that. But man, don't beat them down for what they're driving or what they have.
Yeah.
You know,
That's integrity.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's integrity, man. And you know, it's you know, you have a respect for people, and it's hard. It's as a business owner sometimes, and I think also too, you know, when we've talked about it 100 times, you know, when you're succeeding in life, you know, the devil, he finds a way to just run in there with a pitchfork and stick it right in you, you know, and you know, there's certain instances where, you know, it's hard to balance all that as a business owner, everything that you have, you know, and you get tested, you know, but just, you know, humbleness, man, just be humble, because I tell my wife all the time, I say, you know, when I first started the business, quit my job, you know, and I got, I had a good job. I quit, but I really felt like, and my walk with the Lord was not very good, but I still talked to Him, you know, and I just felt like, you know, I was like, man, there's something that's driving me to do this, you know. It's going to be successful. It's not going to be if I'm working for somebody else. You know, I've got to take that time. I've got to take, you know, and if I fall on my face, then, you know, I'm not going to lay in mud. I'm just going to get back up and do something different. I might have to go work for another company. But, you know, I went through some struggles, you know, some financial struggles at the start, you know. Luckily, everything I had was paid off to a certain extent. I still owe money on stuff. I think when you're totally paid off in the world, you've done great, you know. But we're always going to have debt, man. We live in a world of debt, you know. You got to have debt to be somebody. But you know, we had just minimal payments, and there was always a way that we had enough money to pay it. But you know, we couldn't go on a vacation that year or the first 2 years, you know, and you know, we had to sacrifice a lot of stuff in our personal life, but where I'm at now, I'm blessed, and I think God wants you to be humble. You know, remember where you came from. You know, and when I remember that, you know, I'm proud of where I'm at now in business. You know, there was times where, you know, I literally just said, you know, if this is, I remember sitting in my basement. I think it was in 2020. I was sitting in my basement, and I had already had a couple job applications turned in other places, you know, and I'm a licensed guy, man, with commercial residential experience. Nobody was calling me back, and I mean, people were looking for guys, but I think that was God, you know. I think that was God, you know. That was the easy. Oh, I need to do that, you know. He wanted me to run a business and to be a peer in the community. But I didn't know it, and I just said, you know, Lord, if this is what you want me to do, then you'll make it happen, because it's in your hands. Like I'm doing all that I can starting out, and I know it's rough starting out, but at the very start, it was rough. But I was down in the basement, and I remember praying that, and it was like 2 days later, I had a good job that hit, and then it just after that, it was like bam, 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 just all over the place. And, you know, give it to God. He'll make a way for you. That's why we call him a way maker, you know.
I think when you humble yourself, I just had this conversation with a person, actually my operations manager this past week, and we've been having some of the hard dips that come with businesses on finances, and then it seems like it's always it rises to the top. And not to get too spiritual about things or anything right now, but it was one of those things that where, we dipped hard, and it wasn't like that we weren't surviving or anything like that. And it was, hey, we're getting by, we're able to make payroll, we're able to do that thing, all those things that make payments that are necessary. But one of the things that we need sometimes is humbling ourselves, because if we are called to do greater things, and it's one of these things to where it's like, do you have little faith? I remember, so I'll tell you a little story here for just a minute. We were sitting in, this was 2 weeks ago. I had a very good customer of mine, and we talk Christianity a little bit. He's kind of got a Catholic background, and one of the questions he always asks me is like, is there pictures on the wall in your church? Because I like seeing pictures, And I'm like, man, we're in the middle of renovation right now. There's not pictures or anything up right now. Now, we're working on getting some stuff up, but there's not anything yet, And and it comes kind of on the Catholic side a little bit, because they got all the cathedrals and and the paintings and things that are on the wall and whatnot. And and we walked into talking about personal relationship with God. We walked into that conversation, and we just hit it off, man. He's always like, man, I promise there's going to be one day I'm going to come. Me and my wife, we're coming to your all's church. And I hope he thinks that every time. That seed that you plant with that customer, and every time he looks at you, it's like, oh, man, I got to go. That's not me planting the seed. That's God planting the seed. You know?
Yeah.
And so, and I tell you what's so crazy is, we're sitting in there, and I know this is kind of drawn out kind of ordeal here, but we're sitting there. Me and Brian, we discussed finances before this customer even showed up, and our mailman, we have a really good relationship with him. We cut up with him and whatnot, and he always cuts up with us. Oh, there's a big old check right there coming in. That's going to fill your bank account,
Yeah.
And so we went by. We had some finances out, and payroll was getting a little tough there for a minute to cover and whatnot. And then so happened the mailman had showed up, and he says, "Hey, man, I got something great for you," and he gives us this envelope, and it had a check in the mail, and it was a check from the one that we had been waiting on for not 6 months, but for 60 days. And I looked, and it was just like a burden had been lifted off my chest. And the mailman's his name's Shannon. And I said, man, Shannon, you don't understand how much we needed this, dude. We literally just had this conversation.
Yeah.
And I guess the customer that I have a good relationship with, that comes in with oil changes and stuff all the time, just preventative maintenance. We got done with the conversation. I was like, man, look, man, this here is putting us back where we need to be. It's great. And I would have never expected it. It had to have been a God thing for sure. And mailman Shannon left, and it was like, I looked at Brian. I was like, man, that's great. I can't believe that happened, And the customer looks over at me. He says, do you have a little faith? Do you not trust him? Dude, and it hit me. And it was just like, yeah, man, like I've trusted him with my life. I trusted him with my business. I trusted it in the calling that he's called me to do. And so we find ourselves, this was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So 3 weeks goes by, things are going good, everything looks good, and then we hit another hard dip. We got a lot of expenses out, got a lot of parts overhead out, got a lot of bills going out the door, and I'm just like, man, like, me and Brian, we're discussing, things, because he's my operations manager, and he says, man, I want to learn more of the back end, the ownership mentality. I want to be able to run this thing, and I have to be here. And so I'm just walking through, and I kind of talked to him, and I said, look, this is a stressor. One of the stresses that I have is finances, and I just want to walk you through this week of why I'm a little stressed about it. And so I walked him through it, and he looked at me. He's like, man, he's like, I was cool, calm, and collective on the back end, and he was like, man, I don't want to work anywhere else. I love doing what I'm doing and all this other stuff. And I said, well, we just need to find ways to market and this, that, and the other and whatnot. And I said, we're not going anywhere. We have equity and things like that. I mean, if we need to get money, we can get money. We keep things afloat if we have to. I said, but I don't want to go in negative equity and have to dig out of that equity plus the cash flow that we need too. And I'll never forget, dude. And it was one of these things. We had this big job to come in, and it was a big engine build this past week, and we were like, man, there ain't no way he's going to wind up doing this job. And we called the customer with the estimate, and the guy says, yeah, man, and I got 10 more other trucks that I need service, and it was a big fleet of company that he wanted to start using our company on. And it broke me, man. I got really, and I'm going to try not to get emotional now about it. And why it broke me was, man, like, when we're called to do something, and like I said, I'm not trying to get too spiritual about things, but I trusted him in his calling to walk in, hey, be the change to the community, provide a new start for my employees. And I'm having this conversation with him, and I'm like, dude, look, you called me to do this. Why are you putting us in such a big bind? Why are you allowing these things to happen? It's a conversation I'm having with God. And then, that happens. We're in this dip, and in the middle of it, it's boom, he hits us with this job that takes us above and beyond of where we're supposed to be. And then so I brought myself back to what that customer was sitting in my lobby. It says, do you not have faith? Mm-hmm. Like, I trust him with my whole relationship. I trust him with my kids. I trust him with my family. I trust him with everything. But why can't I trust him with my finances?
Yeah.
And it's almost a way that he humbles you, dude.
Yeah.
And it's like he allows those dips to humble you, to say, you can trust me. You can trust me. And it broke me, and it was just like, all right, God, help me with this. This is an area in my life that I didn't know that I had. I made a prayer. I was talking to him, man, and I had this prayer, and I said, I heard Pastor Barrett tell us this at one time. He said, if the most dangerous prayer that you can have is close all the doors that need to be closed and open all the doors that need to be open. Well, I've been praying that prayer for a little bit, for a time now. And I like on certain days. There's days where, hey, I'll pray and have a good relationship with him. There are other days I'm far from perfect. You know what I mean? I tell people all the time, don't put me on the pedestal, because I'm still human. I've got human nature. I do human things. Got a bad mouth sometimes. My temper comes out. All that stuff. But I believe in God. I believe He changed my life. I believe He's called me to greater things. I really do. But my biggest thing too, man, is I think He allowed, and the question that the why is allowing this to be happening is because I'm allowing it to happen to you because I'm trying to humble you to show you the area that you need work on in your life. And it messes with me, dude. It emotionally wrecks me, and then it's like, all right, God, it's yours. I can have faith. Like, it's like, hey, you believe in me. You say all these things. You help lead the community. You help lead marriages, you and your wife, and all this other stuff. But this is your weak point in your life. This is what you need to focus on in your current season of your life. Trust me with your finances. Stop trying to control it. And, dude, it wrecked me. And so that's kind of, I'm talking to you a little bit about the aftermath. I think I love this podcast. I love doing what we're doing right now and sharing this out here because there's not enough of this. There's not enough of real.
Yeah.
And I think we need more real conversations like this, more real emotional, tangible situations in this aspect to share with the world. I think we're so stuck, man, on this look at me, this fake material that we put out. And all of this stuff. And, dude, if I get canceled off of this conversation that we're having right now, then so be it. At least it'll reach so many people, And so I'm not trying to get too spiritual, not trying to get too crazy like that. It's I don't know why it's coming out now in this podcast that we're currently on in this situation. I guess because we're comfortable talking to each other about stuff like this. But, man, it's been on my mind. It's been on my heart. And it's like, dude, you started this podcast to do a Blue Clock Pod Talk. But what are you going to do with it? What you have access like nobody else has ever had access, or in previous years that other people that have access. How can you be a change not only in the community and the business that you're doing, but hey, you're doing the podcast too. How can you help be a change in that too? And so, not to try to dive too off on the deep end, but I know that we were talking about faith and we were talking about things like that. But to back it up just a little bit too, I want to talk to you a little bit about, you were talking about success, and and I don't want to just constantly talk, Nate. I want to open it up to allow you to jump. Feel free to jump in at any given
Hey,
time.
I told you I'm not the only talker, man. It's him, man.
But success, and I think I've talked about success almost every podcast episode now. Yeah. And to me, and you can tell me if you feel differently or if you see it a different way or whatever. But to me, I feel like success is the trophy to all the trials and tribulations and the things that individual has to go through.
Yep.
But the problem with the world is they want to see you for what you are currently, but they didn't see you for the struggles and for all the things. And when the outside world or these outside people that are looking inward on what you have to offer or where you come from or the current thing that you're sitting in, and if it looks successful to them or they attach a monetary means to what it looks like. To me, I feel like success is a trophy of what it took that individual person to get to where they're currently at. And so that's why, dude, I try to be in every, and I'm not perfect, but, and there's certain things where I find myself of, oh, well, why is that person doing that or that? I'm a human too, but I try to be in that. Anybody in a business mindset's corner to be like, dude, you got this. Like, no matter what you do, I know it's hard right now. You're going to become somebody, whatever it is. What help do you need? Whatever, because I know from experience that it's not easy. It might look easy. They might present themselves calm, cool, and collective, but the hard work and the time that nobody sees. They don't see the 2 o'clock in the morning doing paperwork before they got to open up at 8 o'clock in the morning. They don't see trying to make payroll happen when their expenses are just eating their lunch because they're a startup company and they're wondering where the cash flow is going to come from to make payroll happen. They're not seeing, equipment upgrades or any of that type of stuff. They don't see all the behind the scenes stuff. They just see the image that you put in for that, or that outward image that's perceived. So, but anyway, I'm going to let you, that's a big ball of everything thrown in at you at once. So I'm going to let you take a run in on all of that, touch base, jump in anywhere there, man.
So yeah, I wholeheartedly agree, man. And I think that you talked about in a world where everything is just don't want to say a mirror image, but a look into someone's life, and man, I want people to see, me in my downfall too. I don't just because I'm not going to take a picture when it's perfect. You have to. Life is a lesson. Life is learning, and you have to see, like you said, where you put in your hard work, where you put in your effort at. My success is, and this is my opinion about success and succeeding, right? So I'm succeeding. I don't like to use the word success so much because there's that like maybe it's just my opinion or my mentality, but sometimes you feel like when it's like, oh, this is a success, so it feels like it's over with, it's done, Well, we're succeeding, because I'm not done yet. I'm not done. I'm gonna keep going. If that makes sense, But successful things in my life. I know we had a conversation with me and my wife had a conversation in the car going down to Florida. We go to Florida every year, and we go down there for 7 days, and that's just kind of I disconnect and leave my stuff to the other guys and go disconnect, man. Spend time with my family. This year's been hard. It's been really hard. And there's been times where I'm I don't want to say necessarily throwing the towel, but Mother Nature has definitely not made her mind up on what she wants. I mean, we're almost in mid-October, and it's 80-something degrees outside. So I'm kind of like this year, the whole physical and mental aspect, I'm going into fall beaten and battered and wore out and torn, but
Still high demand for your work. That's
yeah,
why.
yeah. And the AC side of things, people always say, well, you're busy during, in the wintertime. I'm like, yeah, well, we have busy spurts, when it's, 10 degrees and there's a foot of snow on the ground, you'll have, clogged up flue pipe, stuff like that. But my main business is AC, man, because it's it's a lifeblood, dude. I mean, certain people have to have it. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm not going without it. You aren't, so
I'm fat and sassy,
Yeah.
baby. I need some AC.
Hey, I got insulation, and my insulation's all on the inside, so I gotta have a cool air around my insulation, so I don't overheat what this is, But yeah, I mean, we stay busy during cooling season. I mean, I'd say probably 7.5, 8 months out of the year now. It seems like with our climate, I think the climate has changed to where we have longer summers. We're getting this pattern, which, I mean, climate's change. It's, you're reading the Bible, all this flooding and this and this and that, what God had done. And we're in a constant change. We're in a circle, big life circle. But I mean, it seems like the past, I want to say 7 to 10 years, it's been Indian summer, Indian summer, Indian summer. And which is good. I mean, it drives business. I'm not complaining one bit at all. But for a smaller company, it's hard to find quality employees, because I can't pay what a corporate company can. I can't benefit match and all that, because if I did, then my employees are going to be making more money than me. I mean, you can't run a business like that. You just can't. I mean. Yeah. There's a whole entire reason why I got into business, and I have to make a certain amount of money every week, to pay my bills and to make sure that my children are taken care of, and also I've got to be able to make enough to keep the business afloat, like we talked about. But but I got off topic here. I think we might both have ADD, man.
Yeah, it's all good.
But success, we were talking about success. And.
So you were on success. You said you didn't care too much for the term success because you feel like that's a finished product.
Yeah, I feel like it's finished. Yeah,
but you always want to say that you're succeeding, which I agree with that. To a certain extent, yeah. To where you're always succeeding. I think there's different types of success.
Yeah.
Success. I think you have goals that you have in mind that you set for yourself, and then you succeed them goals. You're successful of those goals. Well, now. You're like, hey, now I got to establish a new set of goals, and then now I got to succeed those. So, I can see where you're coming from on that. So that's kind of where you left off. I help you put some some bumper rails up there for you.
But we were talking about that, the truth in people, not the fakeness. But me and my wife, we were talking about, on our way down to Florida, we were probably a good hour and a half, so we're getting giddy and excited, and my wife's like, what's your favorite part of this? And I looked at her and I said, and 5-year-old me wouldn't, 5 years ago, and I won't say 5-year-old me, 5 years ago me, 5-year-old me would say, I'm hungry, I want some chicken nuggets, But 5 years ago, me, myself, 5 years ago, I would have said, kicking back, relaxing, all that. But, in the process of that, seeing my wife happy, because, everybody's got their happy place. The beach is our happy place. We love it. We're beach bums, man. And we seafood eaters, it's our place, man. And, I always, when we get in there, we go to PCB every year. We hit Front Beach Road. My wife, she gets giddy, man, when she sees the beach. I do too, but it's I can control mine. Hers is, and she's like, "This is my happy place," and that right there, that to me is success, because I have sacrificed. I've worked late nights. I've made the money. I've trusted God with financing. my finances, able to save money, and to go down there and live 7 days a week in a relaxed environment, a very expensive environment, may I add, but relaxed, and to see my wife enjoy that, and my son, he's a chip off the old block, man. He loves the beach, dude. He's just loves to swim out there in the ocean. Loves everything about it, man. And
More power to y'all, because let me tell you something. I cannot swim in the ocean. All I can think about is the jellyfish, the wildlife, and everything else. I'm like, man, my butt would get ate up.
oh, dude, they got us. They got us this year. I got stung, and Courtney's sister, her partner, she got stung too. But anyway, I told her, I said, seeing you excited is success, and then seeing all of us together in an environment where we're enjoying, which at our home we enjoy things. There's that occasional Saturday where we may have a half a day where it's just a lazy day where maybe I go out and mow the grass, but we might all be sitting there watching a show on TV, and I kind of take that and kind of step back and kind of peripheral view of everything, and I'm like, this is success. I'm with my family. We have a nice home where I've provided that, and it is a success. And it's successful. It's a total success there. But like you talked about too, though, I'm like you said, I don't really care to get canceled either, or what you care about my spiritual belief, but you trust in God, He will make you a success. And we're only going to be in this world and be a success for so long. That's why you're talking about the generational curses. You want you want your children to be successful as well. So that's breaking generational curses. So 3 generations down, guess what? You weren't just a glimmer for lost people. You were a freaking light. You were a beam. You were a tractor beam that people flock to. And that's what I tell my wife all the time. It's like, when you listen to God and He puts you in the place of where you need to be at, certain people will surround you, and He's putting good people in your life. I think the devil probably has some say in that too as well. I think when you're having a good time, the devil also puts people in your life, and people that aren't spiritual, or certain things, certain hurdles, He puts there for you. But I think when you're listening to God and you're where you need to be, He puts people in your life, and it seems like it sure seems like it in my life that more people has flocked around my family, and it's been for the better good.
Right.
It seemed like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, before we were not going to church, and it just seemed like we were just in a crowd. That's it. But we've got a home, we've got a place, and that's another portion of success right there.
I think as I get older and as I get a little more mature, not only by age and knowledge and things that I soak in the outer world, but spiritual maturity as well. I think our goals and our missions and things like that change, and they pivot, and we start to. I think we have different goals. We have different. Everybody's success is going to be different from one person to the other. What my success and what I think is going to be successful for whatever future or whatever it may be is going to be different than probably what you see for you and your family, or wherever your spiritual maturity needs to go with God, or whatever that may be. But my overall goal, I just had this talk with my employee, and I just sat down with him because his numbers just looked incredible and astronomical. And I sat down with Brian as the operations manager at the location. We went over these finances and stuff, and I said, hey, look, this guy really needs a raise because he's just killing it. And the thing with that is as I'm growing, the employee and the customer base and all of this stuff, something that God really has given me, man, within the past probably couple weeks, 2 to 4 weeks. And I had this same conversation with the employee that I was about to give the race to, because I've been training him more on the tow truck because we started doing some car hauling and things like that. We're a sub hauler for a certain company now that we do some things for, and then we also do private hauling for individuals like yourself or whoever. Matter of fact, I got a private hauling truck right now that I got to take to the shop tomorrow morning. But anything aside from that, a little bit of ADHD there. I kind of
get it together, Travis.
Get it together. Anyway, so not trying to build it up or anything, but what I told him, I said, look, man, I said, my goal is to be a change to the community. Like the vision that he gave the shop. Me and Tara, we walked in the shop, a shell of a building, needed tons of work. We had to pour thousands of dollars into this building to get it where it was operational. We walked in the middle of it. We prayed. And the two things that he gave us was be a change to the community and provide a new start for employees and constantly give to them and give to the community, right? He never promised that we were going to be millionaires, never promised that I was going to be financially well off. He never promised any of those things. So now looking in 2 years deep into moving to the bigger location of where we're at, conversation I had with him was, I said, my overall goal, I said, and as I spiritually mature and as I mature, is that God pretty much served the church, right? It's God led a church as a servant mentality. And if we as man are an image of God, then I have to have a servant's mentality. So my overall goal is to make sure, and this is in marriage too, is to make sure, so let's talk marriage a little bit. With my spouse, I'm always going to make sure that she gets where she needs to be in life. I'm going to constantly serve my wife and help her get where she's successful, where she needs to be in life, and provide for her and protect her and my family and my kids and all those types of things. I have that same mentality with my employees now. Now before it's like, hey, I want to use them as an asset so I can gain the most profit that we can for the shop. When now it's not like that. Now my mindset and transition is I'm going to serve my employees as Christ served the church. And then my employees are going to lead in the way that I lead them and serve the customers. And then the customers are going to compensate our shop. And then that's how we're going to survive and make our money. And that's how I'm always want to have that mentality, is to have a servant's mentality. My overall objective and my overall goal is to be a leader for my employees, to serve them, to get them to the next level that they need to be in their lives. So whatever, if my employee comes up to me and says, Travis, I want to go to college and I want to help gain as much knowledge as I can to gain in the automotive diesel world, whatever the, repair world, whatever that is, it is my job then to be a servant to them to help get them where they need to be. In return, if I'm leading that in an example to my employees are also going to take that leadership aspect that I've shown them and do that to my customers as well and lead them. And then in return, the customers are going to compensate for that servant mentality leadership. It's a service industry. That's service industry, servant mindset. And so
people forget that word. They forget the whole service part of things. Yeah. Servant, you're there to serve, in that you're there to give, what does a servant do? A servant's loyal to his person, and he takes care of everything, and we forget that, and we're, like the service industry, you might be talking about, restaurant. I mean, look at that, man. Look where that's gone.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you go to McDonald's, man, and you remember as a kid, you pull up and 9 times out of 10, there'd be maybe a 25-year-old or a 16-year-old there, and they'd be smiling and happy. When you're a kid, you get your Happy Meal. Now it's like cheeseburger, Happy Meal, $35, please. You're lucky to get a please. It's like you all. It doesn't matter where you're at in your life. That's where God wants you to be at that time. Serve, service, serve.
Well, and unfortunately, man, I really feel like that when you see that in a lot of places, and that's the culture that they're putting out, is from leadership down.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I can't remember who the conversation I had with It might have been Robert McKenzie on the last episode. I can't remember. I have to go back and re-listen to that. But, we were talking, and it's like your outward image of whatever company that you're running is the representation of your employees. So if your employees are constantly, now if it's just you as the employee, well, you can represent your company however, right? But if you have multiple employees that are helping you run your location, and let's say you're out doing another job, or you're, building clientele somewhere else, but then you have the public service or the public eye come in and they're getting service done, and then your employees are a representation of the type of leadership that you give. It's no different than having kids, man. You know what I mean? Yes, you can. There's certain things that your kids are going to do for the, maybe 1 out of 10 things would be like, man, what are you doing? You can help kind of give corrective criticism and help guide them where they need to be. But if their wholeness of a characteristic of how they are as an individual is an outward representation of how their parents are, it's no different than an employee. It's the same way. It's like, dude, I've led, be a leader of your home, be a leader of your family, be a leader in your spouse. And what does a leader look like? You lead how Christ led the church. How did Christ lead the church? He was a servant of the church. He washed the feet of the people of the church. Yeah. And so if I'm a man made in his image, and like I said, if I get canceled, I get canceled. It is what it is. Yeah. If I'm going to be a man in his image, then that's what I got to continue to homo myself and be better of. And honestly, I don't care. I'm not afraid to say that anymore. You asked me that maybe a month ago. I might have been. But that just goes where the spiritual maturity is. There's probably some things that I've done a month ago that I probably shouldn't have ever done. Some things that I've said, some stuff like that. But every day I want to spiritually grow. Every day I want to do better. And I don't know, man. That's just the mentality that I have now, So
I tell you, just to hit on something that was spiritual for me the other day. Since we got back from vacation, it's been busy. Like I go 700 miles south and it's 80 degrees down there, and it's 95 here with like 80%, 90% humidity. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. Like, this is Florida weather in Kentucky. I've just flipped them, buddy. And but my phone blew up the whole entire time I was on vacation, and I'm gonna relay these two things together. But you're talking about you gave an employee a raise. One of my main employees, he really stepped up, and did everything I needed him to do. Which he's a good friend of mine. We're best friends. We've known each other since 5th, 6th grade, whenever it was, and known each other a long time. And he's a good, trusting, friend that I can say, hey, this is what I need done, And we just got done with the job. It's all cash, So government doesn't get their part, But so I gave him a bonus, man, and won't tell the amount, but I gave him a sizable bonus, and he was shocked. I could just tell he was like, wow. He said, "Wow," and I gave him that, and I was like, "Told you I was going to reward you," So I'm down here relaxing, and there's still business to be had, and he can only do so much. He's one guy. But, he did what I asked him to do and went above and beyond. And I think you kind of seen a little bit of what I have to go through working after hours, going and looking at jobs, bidding jobs, stuff like that. Because, most of the time his day, unless he's with me, I got to get him back to his truck or back to the job site where he's parked at. We had to go on a service run or something like that. And he's usually home by 5 o'clock, Since I've gotten back from vacation, I don't think I've seen a 5 o'clock at home day since. Yeah. And we're in October, but also, I did that for him. I just wanted to relay that because I thought that was funny that you talked about that. So last week, there was a day I think I got home at 6:45, 7 o'clock, and I was trying to get caught up on mowing, and we're all guilty of. Not allowing God in our life in situations where we're stressed out, and we have to remember that hey, we're actually blessed, because it was a good stress, but sometimes good stresses you can over stress, right? You've experienced, I know you have, as a small business owner, you get a lot of work in at one time. You're like, you can't look at God and say, you gave me too much, but I'm stressed. I'm not cussing anybody. I'm not mad at anybody. I'm just like, man, this is a lot. It's a lot. Lots going on. Man. So I'm going down, bobbing through the ditch, and mowing the ditch line, and I'm a zero turn, and this song pops up in my head, just randomly, and I started to sing it out loud, and it was Cain. The song, I'm so blessed, hallelujah, I'm so blessed. Yeah. And I don't ever think about that song, but as I'm going down through the ditch, man, I just sang it out loud, man. It was spiritual, and it just, singing that, it was like everything in my body just mellowed. Like, yeah. And I think that's the Holy Spirit saying, hey, look, you're blessed, and take that as, humble yourself. You're blessed. You've got more than enough. This is what happens when you center yourself around God. This is what happens when you trust Him, put it in His hands. Yeah. And it was I got done with the ditch, and I got done mowing, man, because I was kind of shook a little bit, and I came in, and my wife, she's getting dinner ready, and about done with dinner, and I looked at her and I said, she went to that Kane concert, and she likes to go to all the Christian pop concerts, like they went to Elevation Worship. Yeah. I don't really listen to that music a whole lot. Probably should listen to it more, but some of their songs are good and I like them. I listen to them. But as far as that song, maybe she was playing it, I heard it, and I'm like, oh, it's a decent song, but I don't go around singing it. Now I do, man, because it's just like it popped in my head out of nowhere. Yeah. And I wasn't even thinking about that, man. And I told my wife that, and she was like, that was God telling you, just relax. You're blessed. I said, I know. I said, I know it was. I know. But we talk about the Holy Spirit, and that I think that was that I was in the presence of the Holy Spirit right there. That was just a way of modern tools mellowing me out. And we forget about that, man. We forget about that. But I'm like you, man. Cancel me all you want to about being spiritual, but. I'm not afraid. We have a powerful God. We have a loving God, and that was something that I discussed with you on, in our upbringings, going to strict Southern Baptist churches, where you're burning damnation and hell and fire pits, and now I know this loving God as I'm an adult, and it's. I'm not scared I'm not scared, and I'm not scared of the world telling me that it's not okay to love Him. It's not okay to be vocal about it either. Yeah. If I had a megaphone right now, I would say it a megaphone. So,
well, a lot of it, man, is it took me a while to realize it. It took me a lot of maturity and just figuring it out on my own a little bit, and sometimes going through something really bad in life too, to figure it out. And man, I'll be honest with you. It's the persecuting. It's God don't ruin God, man. It's people that ruin it. It's religion that ruins it. It's things like that to where I'll be honest with you. It's people saying, oh, and I'm not saying anything that there's anything against Southern Baptist or Pentecostal or anything like that. But I was raised in that, and you were going to hell for everything that you did, and. I talked to this gentleman at church today. Matter of fact, it was the guy that I was telling you about, not the one that you might be related to, but the other one.
Yeah.
And man, he just stopped in the tracks, and he says, man, this is the first church that I've ever been to where I can be relatable to other people. He says, I've always felt like I was the imperfect person surrounded by perfect people that did no wrong. And I was like, dude, that ain't God. No, that's man trying to put religion on things.
He felt I felt that as a kid, man. You feel tight in your own skin. Yeah. You feel like you're getting judged at every angle. You're 360-degree angles of judgment. And, there is judgment, in what we do. We are judged on what we do. But it doesn't need to be unloving and by other people here on the world, because we're the only way that we can get by in this world is let God be the one to judge. We're just here to live a life and educate people that don't know, that are in the dark about it, or maybe get people out there like me, man. I was spiritually dead, like when me and my wife got rededicated. I wasn't afraid at all to sit there in that pool of water and say in the microphone, hey, but our marriage was headed down. It was headed down because I was letting worldly things bother me. We had some stuff in our marriage that everybody goes through. With certain obstacles sometimes in a marriage you can't hurdle. But if you put your marriage in front of God, put God first, those things aren't even, you can just step over them, not hurdle over them. And that's the important thing. And I just, dude, I'm telling you, it's been a life change for us. And I noticed that after going to church, it's we found, with going down Radiant, where we go, we found that we had a home. Like I said a while ago, we have a home. We're surrounded by people that love us, that want, they want us to be alive spiritually, not dead, and I never felt that as a kid, and my grandmother's church she went to, which there's some great people there. Don't get me wrong, they're great people, but it's just not where God wants me at. Maybe when I was a kid, I needed to be there. I needed to experience that. Maybe that was part of my trials and tribulations as a kid, and as you're a kid, maybe to see that side, because there is a side of God that's punishment, but it doesn't need to be at every angle,
Well, the problem with it is what you said. There's a side of God. There's going to become a judgment day, right? And God, that's going to come. But it's going to be, to me, I think it's going to be in a loving aspect, fatherly way.
Yes,
it's like,
I do
hey,
too.
like, you know who I am. You know what I've done. But it's like, hey, these are the things that you should have done, or whatever. In a father lovingly way.
Yep.
And I think as individuals and people, I think they've taken that and try to use and abuse and use it for what they see for judgment, not allow God to work in that, and so we can dive off in the deep end on that subject a little bit, so I don't want to go too far deep into it or offend too many people out there, but at the same time, it's, I think we as people, at the end of the day, we screw it up, and certain people do. They want to utilize it's not. I don't think religion even hurts itself. I think what it is people utilize it to how they help benefit themselves, and they don't utilize it in, hey, this is how you get closer. And the biggest thing is, it's like, I don't know, somewhere in the scripture it was talking about, and I can't say verbatim what it was. I have to go in and actually look at what scripture it is. It's like, there's so many people where they say they why or let's back up a little bit. God, when he came in man's image here as Jesus Christ, he didn't go sit with the religious and the religion and all of that. He even talked about where babbling like pagans and things. It's like, hey, you're doing everything right, but do you know me? Do you know who I am?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like, the taxpayers, the sinners, and all of that different type of stuff. That's where God, that was his group, man.
Yeah.
He was in the group with the freaks.
The gamblers, the homosexuals. Yeah.
All that stuff. And it's like, because at the end of the day, and this is, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But at the end of the day, I really think that the biggest, most important thing isn't religion, isn't scripture. Because here's the thing. I'm going to back up just a little bit again. Jesus was on the cross, and he told the guy that was hanging on the cross. He didn't bring him off the cross and baptized him and water baptized him and baptize him in the Holy Spirit. He said, you're going to walk with me in heaven, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I think what it is that God, the sole purpose, is having a relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
Is, do you know who I am, and do you accept me in your heart?
Yep.
The rest of it falls in between. Now, I think there's certain things that while you're still living and walking in his image, of course, there's rules and laws and all kinds of stuff to everything.
Yeah.
But to know who he is and accept him in his heart, that's the very most important thing.
Well, so you talk about that with, with Jesus being with, degenerates, gamblers, and things like that. So you think that maybe, because there was times where people didn't know who Jesus was. They didn't know. Okay, this is the Messiah. This is the prodigal son. Maybe they didn't go to a church that preached Sodom and Gomorrah and fiery pits and yada yada yada. And maybe it was too. They had anxiety back then. Didn't have medicine for it, but they did have alcohol. So maybe people turned to that. And Jesus came. This is my theory on it. Jesus came up to them, the degenerates, the gamblers, the homosexuals, the liars, the thieves, blah blah blah, blah, drunks. He came up to them to show them love and how to love, right? And if you do that in a place where there's lost or spiritually dead people, you're going to create a chain reaction. You're going to notice that bars are going to be more empty. I think that was his main goal. It's like, hey, this is these people may not love you. That society may label you as this, but I know you're better. If you trust in me, follow me, you can be better. You can be at your best potential. So when you reach people like that, like we're talking about with employees or customers, that creates a chain reaction. It's that whole kindness thing, be kind, and then the next person will be kind, pay it forward. It's that kind of mentality, I think that all kind of resorts back to Christ,
Well, and that's the thing, man. I think because, your story is your story, right? And God uses your story for his likeness, right? And so, mine and Tara's story is going to be different than some other people, or that God calls you in whatever thing that you walk through to be relatable to the other people. I think God calls those certain people or has, a relationship with those people because now he's able to use you or allow you to go through things to have no other option but to call on him and says, hey, I need you in my life. There's no other way other than you. And so when you get to that, you accept him in your heart. You have that personal relationship, and then everything that you've gone through, whatever your story is, well, now you're relatable like nobody else can be relatable to. Or, say, we may relate to people in marriage than what, say, Barrett and Allison, our pastors can relate to. People that have walked through drug abuse are going to be able to relate to other people that's been in drug abuse versus me and Tara because we haven't been through that. We don't know what that's like. We've been through, marriage situations and things that happen in that and certain abuse and things like that. But, everybody's story is their story, and I think that's just where it becomes, hey, when you're able to walk into those people and walk into their mess, that's when real life change happens. That's when the relationship change happens with Christ. Sometimes as humans, and I think probably God knows this too, is that we need to relate to something to be able to be moved to something maybe. Mm-hmm. And maybe I'm wrong, but and so when you're able to relate to that certain individual or whatever their situation is and say, hey, this is how God changed my life, well, then it gives them a little bit of a light at the end of a dark tunnel, And so,
it's empowerment in a sense, Yeah.
Let's. We've been diving real deep into this, pretty heavy, pretty hardcore, but you guys stay tuned. We're going to take a short break. I'm going to, Mother Nature has called its name. My mouth's getting a little bit dry. We're going to take a little bit of get a drink and take a little bit of a break, and we'll be right back. And we'll discuss a little bit more about business or faith or whatever that may arise itself and we'll be right back. This may end up being part 3, 4, and 5. I don't
Hey,
know,
there's
man.
quality in Jesus, right?
That's right, man. But you guys stay tuned. We'll be right back. If it's not on this same video, it'll be on the next part. But thank you all so much for listening in. And, hey, tune in to the second part of this video, or third part, or fourth part, fifth part, whatever it may be. Y'all stick around. We'll be right back. So we're back from our break. We let Mother Nature take its course. We got us reamped our drinks and ready to go for round 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever this night leads into. Super excited to launch this thing off. Before we left, what we were talking about, man, we talked about quality control. We talked about, Davis, we talked about the warranty work. We talked about our faith in businesses. We talked about what it looked like to have a servant's mentality, kind of not only for our customers, but for our employees, and just several other things that we have talked about. And, man, you know, we want to kind of redirect and bring that back in and hone in a little bit on our business world a little bit. I know we talked off camera that you had a little bit of material you wanted to talk about, and some things that in previous episodes that I have talked about has been kind of like the service industry fees, the diagnostic fees, you know, for you and your field and what you all do. You all have a lot of service fees, I'm sure that, and I know they're not astronomical or anything like that, but I know that you make house calls, and obviously there's a fee attached to that because it's a service call. Walk us into that, man, a little bit, what that looks like for you, and maybe some of the pros to it, some of the cons to it, and
Sure.
some of the complaints, or even some happy customers. So, you know, whatever material you got there to kind of throw at that, I want to kind of open that up to you.
So most companies are kind of based, you know, your service charge generally is anywhere from, I think the standard now is probably $75 or to $100. Maybe, you know, if you're a commercial customer, it might be $115, $120. You know, it's a different. There's residential line and pricing, then there's commercial line pricing. Obviously, commercial's more expensive, a lot more money in commercial. I don't really get too much into it. I do like commercial, so it's pretty much kind of same pricing as residential. But you know, our trip fee and everything is all tied into one. Some companies will say $70 trip fee and $20 truck charge. So it's a $90 service call, you know, for them to show up to your house. You know, we're just $80. $80. That's the trip fee. That's everything. And that covers the first hour. You know, it's not just $80 to show up. That covers my first hour on the job. Most companies do. Some companies don't. You know, but industry standards, you know, around here, for HVAC, it's, you know, generally about $80. Because I get people that'll ask me, you know, how much is your charge? How much is your service charge come out? And I'm like, $80, man, $80. And what does that entail? You know,
that's
one hour.
that's what I was about to ask you. Is you know, kind of, you know, walk us through what a service, why charge for a service fee? Why, you know, what's it all entail? And then customers sometimes they want to, you know, they'll either have a complaint or they want to further discuss why you charge a service fee, and there's reasonings why we charge diagnostics fees, which I've talked in a previous episode. So walk into your service fee of why that is.
So you have a service fee. You have a service fee of $80, man. That covers your vehicle wear and tear, your gas, what you're using. You know, it's just an operating fee. I mean, I can't show up to your house in my vehicle, my company's vehicle, ultimately is my vehicle, you know, for $15. I mean, you know, it's not feasible. You know, you would essentially be running on fumes, you know, like an engine with no gas, you know. But I mean, you might not even have fumes at $15 or $10 or $5 or whatever. But you know, that keeps your business afloat. You know, and obviously, you know, that $80 is quite a bit of money for some people, but most people are just like, yeah, well, that's fair.
Well, I think what a lot of people don't see, I'm just going to try to help you out a little bit with this one here too, Dave. It's just because I've been in this mentality. I used to run a mobile mechanic business, and so I kind of understand the service fee, the diagnostic fee, all that type stuff. And what a lot of people don't realize is, hey, that vehicle that you're using to get from point A to point B to do the service run to make it to their home for them is it uses fuel. Well, not only does it use fuel, but you also have insurance costs that come with that. This is aside from your general liability insurance that you have with your business. You have insurance on the company vehicle as well. Well, not only that, I mean, you're telling me now here before too long you got to get your service truck to me for maintenance repairs.
Overhead.
Yeah, you got the overhead to run that truck. That's outside the labor that you're going to be investing into the job itself. Well, and a lot of people that don't realize is, hey, you are spending your quality time sitting in that vehicle to go to point A or to customer, and you're still taking time away from your family, your friends, your personal time to get into your truck to utilize, say, if it's a 30-minute drive from, your office space to the customer where they're located at, well, that also entails that labor that you're spending to drive to their house.
Yep.
And so, not to kind of overstep on your toes or anything like that, but I just wanted to kind of break it down for the audience of this is why the service fees are very important because, time, money, overhead, everything that comes along with it, so that you don't even charge, let's say if, hey, I've known guys that they'll charge a service fee or diag fee or whatever, and then there's other people that don't. But at the end of the day, they're adding it to that bill, for whatever's wrong on their service. They're making it up somewhere.
And hours work too. That's another thing is labor. Sometimes I'll turn a bill in, and to properly. Like I said, with $80, it comes the first hour. Well, after that first hour, if I'm there trying to figure out what is going on with the system, I'm not a parts thrower at her. I'm gonna figure out what's going on. Now, if it comes down to it, this part's bad, and it shows that this part is faulty too. We might want to throw some parts at it, because I may make a repair here, but A's fixed, but B's failing, so B is going to cause A to fail again, and you might be back changing both those parts, A and B. But there's certain customers I've had that don't understand. I've been in your house for 3 hours. There's 2 hours of labor. So not even by the time I add in my material costs and everything else, I'm $75 an hour, to work on, to be there, And, they're paying for the knowledge, your expertise, because a customer sure isn't going to find it because that's why I'm there, in the first place. But that's what people understand is, customer base don't understand is, hey, and most of them do, they see that, if I'm dealing with a shorted wire or a component that's shorted and there's multiple components I have to go through because it passes through in series here, and here. Most of the time I can figure it out pretty quick, but, there's sometimes things throw you for a loop. I've been standing in front of a unit that's short cycling, working just fine, and all of a sudden the fuse blows in it, and find a wire that's dead in a wall somewhere, but it had enough continuity to run voltage through it, and then all of a sudden it just went out. Freaky stuff can happen with these systems. Just as automotive, I'm sure you've seen stuff. I mean, there's intermittent issues where somebody drives down the road and says, hey, I'm hearing this noise. Well, then you go take that car 10 miles down the road and give her all she's got and Dell Jr. it, and try to get it to make that noise, and you can't do it, and then okay, look, we did this, we fixed this because this is a known issue, but I couldn't find it, and then one month later they're coming back saying it's still there. I mean, it's your expertise too. I mean, you have intermittent stuff. I've had it this summer. It seems like August was intermittent. I actually told one of my customers, he's a property maintenance guy for the contract, and told him, I said, I'm dedicating August to intermittent service month. I was like, because I've had more, and that's when we had all those crazy storms. So you had stuff electrically shorting out, and I would go to a customer's house and find an issue and or show up and not find the issue and have to come multiple times and then finally find it. But in that sense, I could say, okay, well, you have a bad board. If I go to put that board on there, that unit is not under warranty. You're going to be not so happy with me when it comes to find out that it's ran for 6 hours after I've left. The next day you wake up and it's 80 degrees in your house, and you're like, well, I just paid $400 for service call and an hour of labor and a board, and my crap is broke again. It's doing the exact same thing. So that's why, sometimes that service bill is a little steeper, because I'm there for 2 or 3 hours trying to figure out and saying, hey, look, this is what it is right here. This part, if we replace this or if we fix this, that's going to solve the issue. But trying to get certain people to understand that, sometimes they think that, oh, well, you charge me the $80, that covers you being here for 3 hours. Well, if that was the case and I gave away all my labor hours, then why am I in this business?
No, that's just for you to show up to even start the job, you know, and
show up and cover the first hour. After that, it's game on for the hourly rate, and I keep it honest with my customers. If I'm there for an hour and a half, some days I might say, you know what, hey, I could charge you what is it? Trying to think, what's half of 75? 37.50. I could charge you $37.50 for I
call it half-hour minimum.
Half-hour minimum. But some days if the mood suits me right, and and it maybe took me a little bit longer because I was a little slow on it or something, I might waive that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, at $37, sometimes it's give or take, the old fraction system, but yeah, I mean, there's certain industry standards that are there to protect, me from losing a massive amount of money and me wasting my time, because time is money essentially. I mean, that's you don't go to Two Brothers Garage just to work for free every day.
I always plan on it, man. I mean, I love to work for free. I mean.
I got all kinds of stuff at the house that you can come help me do, man.
I live to not pay my bills.
Mm-hmm.
I live to survival of the fittest. That's how I live.
Hey, we were talking about weight loss in there. Maybe we should start working for free, because then we'd lose some weight. Yeah. We'd have no money for food.
But yeah, I think there's a fine line for everything, man. I really do, and you can't work for free, and you can't gorge somebody either with the price. That's completely unfair. I think as long as you're utmost and honest and integrity, and you're transparent up front too, of hey, this is what it's going to be. This is what it can entail. And man, a lot of it's communication. Just being full lines of communication with the customer, what you're doing, what you find, and all of that,
Also, too, something that came to my mind, we've talked about this multiple times. One of my biggest pet peeves is, it's your equipment. You work on it if you want to, but don't go, destroy it and then call me and say, well, hey, can you get it fixed? Can you do it for a reasonable price? Well, if you worked on it, if you've not, if you put Freon in it and you haven't vented, your hoses properly, you've introduced air to the system. You've introduced, moisture. You talked about that with, old farm trucks coming in and somebody has jerry rigged an engine block or, or done something, done something, That ain't for me. It's I get a lot of calls of my mini split stopped blowing air or stopped blowing cold air, and I'm like, did you install it? Yeah. I'll ask them, I'll say, did you pull a vacuum? No, I didn't have to. What's a vacuum? I'm like, probably the reason why your mini split stopped blowing cold air. I'm like, no, I'm not interested. Call somebody else. I can come replace it for you because you did not properly, install the equipment. But, as far as fixing it, I'm not opening that can of worms because I might not be able to get the lid back on. So we've talked about that before, and I've in business when I first started, I would do stuff like that, and 9 times out of 10 it would come back and bite me so hard.
Absolutely. And
Yep.
so I'll be honest with you, Davis. Anything, now if it's been to another shop and it's been left undone, if a customer has started the project and hasn't finished it, if it's they bought a vehicle and the person they bought it from is like in between a motor swap or whatever, we do not touch it. We run as far away as we can from it, man. Just because, one, they're going to expect you to stand behind a warranty on everything that they've provided you, and two, there's 90% of the time you're going to run into major gremlins that's more of a headache. And then to be honest and have the utmost integrity with that customer, you can't charge the customer, the 16 or 20 hours that you got invested to get their thing back, because it may only call for 4 to 6 hours to put it together, even though that, there's a wiring mess or there's whatever, you put in place of it. It's just, so now, it's the type of quality of customers that we want to deal with at our shop as well. I'm not saying that not everybody's bad and that we don't want to deal with people's messes or anything like it. It's just that we're just maybe not the shop for you. We're just not the place to where you can get those things done.
Yeah, of course.
And so I just I eliminate it from the get-go. Like I said earlier, you got to draw the line in the sand somewhere, and I just all of those types of things come back to bite you in the butt.
I had I can tie that in. We were talking about honesty, integrity, in your business. There's a couple, not name any names, won't do it. But there's a couple companies around certain areas that I've found that have been very dishonest to customers. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. As my company, I'm going to tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Now, if you're ridiculous and you harass me or something like that, then you can lose my number. But as long as you treat me fair, and if you're working with me, I ask you, hey, look, I'm busy right now, but as soon as I get around to it, I will come and take care of your issue. But if you're pounding me, and I'm the most important thing on this world right now, and one of the biggest things I'm sure you and I've got an interesting scenario with the customer in a minute. I'll tie this into, but I'm sure you get the they want next day service. I don't ever expect that from anyone. Because in this climate, that's how people are now, man. It's they now, and you have a work gap or a employment gap. Everybody needs quality employees, and there's only so many of them out there. And you just can't expect that out of a company. And it frustrates me as a business owner for people to expect me, next day, come on, let's get it done. I'm like, there's a list, and you're not next. You called me yesterday, and these people called me a week ago, and I'm showing up to their house tomorrow, and I might be in your house in a week. But if you want to get somebody else, and I've told people that, hey, if you want to get somebody else, that's fine. I'm you're in that big of a hurry. I'm not your guy right now. I'm busy. I have enough on my plate.
Well, and then that says something to you as a company, if you are that busy too, and it's one of them things to where it's like you want to do the best thing possible for them, and the thing is, man, sometimes, if you are that busy, you are that good, it's a lot of people think, I don't want to say a lot of people, but there are a lot of people out there that I've had to deal with, kind of like what you're talking about, to where they only see what they have wrong, and they don't see anybody else. They think that they're
understanding.
They think they're the only customer in that very given time. Yeah. When in all reality, if you're very good at what you do and your business is good at what you do, then you're going to be probably covered up, and there's a scheduled basis. Now, there's certain services out there or certain avenues that you create for probably your employees too, for like the quick jobs. If it just needs a recharge and there's no leak or whatever, it just needs a service, or it needs a filter replaced or whatever. Services like that, I'm sure you can get to them fairly quick.
Yeah, fairly quick. Yeah.
But if you're, if you're anything like us, to where you offer everything, and you've got, for my instance, and I'm going to speak from my perspective, not yours, but in our automotive industry, where we have major builds like engine swaps and transmissions and components on engines and fuel injectors, whatever, you name it, and then all the way down to oil changes and things like that. I mean, a lot of those things are going to be on a scheduled basis. And, if we can't get to you, and I tell people that all the time, if we can't get to you, hey, that's okay. You can try somebody down the road, but, if there's everybody that's pretty good at what they do, they're going to be covered up right now, depending on what time frame that they're wanted in. So, I'll have to agree with you on that, Davis, but didn't mean to cut you off on that.
No, you're good. Yeah, 100%. That's why I brought that up, because I'm sure you've had it, and I know you had it. But so we're talking about that, but talking about companies. Let me put this in the right word sense. Taking advantage of pricing. I've seen a certain company in a certain area, being very discreet here, use tactics to try to force people into putting a new system in. And of course, their system is way overpriced. They're $10,000 more than me. But I just ran into one here recently, and I almost wanted to record it. But she told me who came out, and I was like, okay, and they gave her the line, you need a new system, when I got done, I was pretty appalled. Like, I was like shocked that. So I get there, and she's like, "It's got no Freon in it." I'm like, "Okay, all right." So I go over, and it's a 410A system. It's from like 2011 or 12. So I mean, it's old, but it's not, it's not like Methuselah. You know what I'm saying? I'm not oh my gosh, my 1981 air conditioner broke down, and it's never gonna, I'm gonna have to get a new one. Are you kidding me? It's like. Well, I mean, it's from 1981. What do you expect, But this is a newer system. And in my opinion, because we're at that 30 realm, so, the 2010 is new to us, you know what I'm saying? And realistically, it's, almost 15 years old, but I think it was a 2011, 2012, 2010, somewhere around that time frame system. Back when, and it was Train, which they're big. I'm sure, they don't care if we talk about them. It was a Train system back when I think they were kind of at their peak of good equipment. So she says, okay, it's got no Freon in it. I've had this company come out and recharge it. I'm like, okay. Well, I'm saying, well, we need to find the leak. Said if it's flat. So I go over there and I put gauges on it. It's flat, 0-0. Both sides, high, low, 0-0. I'm like, okay, man. So I'm telling my helper, I'm like, hey, go get nitrogen. We're gonna pump nitrogen in here, and we're gonna charge up nitrogen and try to find the leak. I'm like, it should be pretty obvious. It's 0-0, and we get it up there, man. And I think I didn't have much on my tank. I think I may have had 150 pounds in the system, which was worn enough. We get it up there about 150 psi, and it's sitting there, and I'm like, let's start a test on it, but it's not moving. Like, I don't hear anything hissing. My numbers aren't budging at all. Like, I've got a digital manifold set gauges, and so on my particular set of gauges, it's got a pressure test timer. You can put it on the timer for how long, how much it shows, how much it dropped. PSI dropped in the system, and I charged it up, and I put the timer on, and we were doing some things in my truck and kind of reorganizing stuff. I always give it, 10 minutes or so, see what it's done. Get over there. I mean, it ain't dropped 0.1 in like 15 minutes. And I'm like, what the crap is going on here? So I take my gauges off, and I'm thinking, maybe there's a small leak. So she was saying she had to have it charged up about twice a year. And I'm thinking, well, maybe because, like on a tire, you got a valve stem. Well, we got valve stems on our service valves. The depressors that let the refrigerant come out and gauge, into the gauge hoses. Now, those are kind of notable for leaking because they got a little gasket on them, just like a valve stem does. Over time they can get old and dry rotted. And
Yeah, we got Schrader valves that are on AC systems in vehicles, and so we have to replace Schrader valves.
Yep, Schrader, we call them Schrader cores, but valve stem, whatever. That's all, side cuts, dikes. What do you call them? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. they got 40 names, but they got the one purpose. But like Schrader core, Schrader valve stem. But so I check those. I get my True Blue out and I'm spraying it. Which is a leak detector. Bubbles up if it's got a leak. Nothing, man. They're both flat. So I go to the customer and I'm like, this is not good. I'm like, she's like, what do you mean? Like, system's bad? I'm like, well, I don't know yet. I hadn't seen it run. I'm like, this system does not have a leak on it right now that I can find. And we're sitting at like, I put it back on, and it showed it's lost like 1 PSI in 20 minutes. But, for me, removing the hoses and putting them back on, of course you're going to lose some pressure. It's you're screwing the hose on. And we let it sit for like another 30 minutes, man. And checked it again. Nothing, man. I mean, it was just steady as could be. And I said, all right. I said, well, the only other thing we can do now, which, if you were the Fat Cheeto, you would just throw some Freon in it and roll down the road.
Sweat, purge, and roll, baby.
But, if you're all about quality, you're gonna. I'm told her. I said, well, what we're gonna do now? Pull vacuum. We're gonna pull vacuum. We're gonna get it down below. At this point, it's an older system. If we get, a couple hundred below 1,000, I always like to try to pull it at least below 500. But on some systems, you just don't know what shape it's in. You may not be able to get it that low. You might be able to get it at 750, and that's a good vacuum, for the whole system. I always go off a rule of thumb. If it's gotten below 1,000, then you have no leaks. If you're holding below 1,000, your decay test stays below 1,000, you're probably good. And in the real world, perfect scenarios don't always happen. As you know, with automotive side of things too. There's certain situations that you try to shoot for that, but it's not perfect. It's not going to happen. But we try to get close, we try to get close. So I pull a vacuum. I get it down below 500. This is a system that's been in since 2011. I think it was 2011 is what year it was now. But I pull it to like 420 microns, and I'm like, I look at her and I'm like, this is not good. Like this, like I told her, and I said a few choice words, and the customer, she was like, you mean I got took, pretty much. Like I said, yeah, you got took. I said, they took the Freon out of this unit because there's no way it leaked. No way. Yeah. I'm like, with us holding a nitrogen charge on it for that long, no drop, restarting the test at the new, setting. So before I pulled a vacuum, I replaced the cores, and I told her, I said, this is a very cheap part. Like I charge like $1.50 or $2 per core, so I don't mark them up a whole lot. Little items like that you kind of got to sell for $1. You buy a pack of 25 of them for $10 or whatever. Right. You got to make your money on it. That's how business works. But I told her, I was like, they're $1 or $2 or whatever. I'm like, I'll sell them both to you for $2. I'm like, well, let's put that in there. Make sure that maybe that technician that was out here when he did recharge it, maybe they didn't see it right, and maybe it's sat now, but now it's voided. And it's reset after I've reseated after I've put, charge in it. But I said, well, we'll just replace it. They're brand new. They got new seals on them. And she was happy, man. I think I charged her. I kind of felt bad for her because she got took. We had a lot of hours in it. But, I left the vacuum pump running. It was one of the scenarios, too, where it just seemed like the repair never got done. We got done, got the system running. And everything's running. It's purring like a kitten, man. And I told her, I'm like, this you're good, you're fine. And then all of a sudden, the whole system shuts off. Well, the condensate pump in the basement was bad, where it had set. I guess because she hadn't ran it in like 2 years at this point, because they gave her these scary bids, and she was, oh my God, I can't afford that,
Oh wow.
So yeah, so she was using window units and yada yada yada. But so this system set for, I didn't know that at that time. I was like, thank God we pulled a vacuum on that, because she would be peed if we came back 3 or 4 days later and there was contaminants in there, because we recharged it which we wouldn't have done anyway. But I did not know that, so I was like, I looked at my helper, and I was like, this is why you do quality work. This is why you do everything to cover your end. But as I think we got done, I think it was it took quite a bit of refrigerant. It was a bigger system, pretty good sized house. I think it was under $1,000 what I charged her, which is very fair. She knew some pretty influential people. Some customers of mine referred me to her. So I do a lot for that. That one guy, he said, hey, this is a good friend of mine. Take care of her if you will. Charge her what you think's fair, but take care of her, do her a good job. So I was kind of, lost for the word here, but in my judgment, I charged her a little bit less because I felt sorry for her because she was being taken advantage of. And I told her, I said, she said, well, how much is a new system? She said, because it is older. She's like, it's well over its warranty time of 10 years. And she'd been living in the house for quite a while. But she said, how much is a new system? And I quoted her a new system. And it was a bigger system. I think it was somewhere around in the high 8s or like 9,000. It was like a 4-ton furnace and AC and everything, shebang. She wanted, quality equipment. She wanted, a good name brand. So I quoted her, kind of one of my higher end packages. It was like $9,000, 85 or 9 or something like that. And she was like, really? I said, yeah. She said, that company was like this. They gave me a price back in 2019. It was $19,000. I said, no wonder why your unit didn't have no refrigerant in it. Because if you entertain that $19,000 bid, because she had heard, I guess her parents or somebody in her family had used that company for a long time. And back in the day, they used to have morals, but now they're a corporate entity now. And, they don't care. They charge that high pricing, they can get away with it. It's kind of like batting for 1,000 every time you swing. Sometimes you gotta hit sometimes you get struck out, sometimes you hit a single to first base, grounder to first base, and every now and again you hit one out of the park, but with pricing, you can't every time be batting for 1,000. You just can't. And just my experience with that, and I've seen some dirty things that same company and other companies have done around, trying to tactics, trying to get people. And that's what's scary, is a technician is in service. They're servants, like we were talking about. You're serving that customer. You're not trying to. Your service first and your sales later. And that's what I tell all my customers, that I don't really enjoy the sales part as much as the service part, because it keeps me on my toes, and it helps you out. I like helping people. I like serving people. So if I could fix something, I'm going to do it. But there is a time where you do have to have sales. Sales backs your business up. But you can't force it on every job. There's a point in time where if it's an 11 or 12-year-old unit and it's got a little bit something wrong with it, then you fix that little bit. You fix that board. You fix that motor. But you also do your due diligence, and you tell the customer, hey, it's an older system. This money you're putting in it now, this could be money going towards a newer system that has a warranty on it, but we can get parts for it. We can blah, blah, blah this, blah, blah, blah that. Well, this is your option. This is your option. I always give my customers options, like I've done with you, So they're educated, They know what they're going to spend their money on. And I'll give them my opinion, but I'll say it's your money. You spend it how you want.
That's something that there was one situation that when I first hired the operations manager that I have now, excuse me. We walked through a scenario and we had to fix it. I said, hey, we need to call the customer back. I said, because it was like he highly recommended, and he says, hey, we need to go ahead and do this now. And I said, look, we need to fix that, and don't, we try not to do that. The biggest thing, and I've got a great operations manager, don't get me wrong. This was just early on in the business of doing things. And so it was a learning curve. It was one of them things, and he knew instantly. He was like, "Wow, man, I know better. Like I shouldn't have done that or nothing." And he didn't present it in a bad way. The customer really needed it, you know, in the aspect. I said, but you always want to give the customer the option, you know, just say, "Hey, look, you can do it like this, or you don't have to do it like this. But, you know, this is a situation of where you're going to be at with your vehicle if you don't, and this is where it's going to be at if you do fix it. And but we're going to solely leave it up to you. If you want to fix it, cool. If you don't." And, you know, and he went back and he says, "Hey, look, you know, that was my fault. If you know, I never want you to feel like that." And they were like, you know, they were cool about it. They were like, no, we know it really, you know, we really need to do this or whatever. And you were just solely based it on if it was your point of view, if it was yours, you know. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, and I'm glad it all settled out great. But, you know, it was a learning curve for him and learning curve for us, too, as we grew as a team, is saying, hey, you know, always give customers options and let them decide, because then you don't have to regret anything. You don't feel like you're peer pressuring anything. You don't have to do nothing. All you do is present them with the facts, be honest with them, be utmost integrity, and let them make the decisions for themselves, because at the end of the day, it's their vehicle, their money. It's everything that's coming out of their pocket.
Oh, yeah.
And they have to live with their decision, not we live with it for them. So, but, man, I tell you what, Davis, it has been like a really, really good conversation with you, really good podcast. And
yeah, I've enjoyed it, man. It's been awesome.
And I hate to really end it at all, but we'll definitely have to do like a part 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever we're at by the time we do some post editing and see where we're at on this thing and time frame. But, man, I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into Blue Clock Pod Talk. Be sure to reach out to Davis's company if you got any HVAC issues. B&B Comfort Solutions, they'll be sure to get you all taken care of. If you'd like to be a part of this show, reach out to us at blueclock.podtalk@outlook.com. That's blueclock.podtalk@outlook.com. We are always looking for business owners, community leaders, just anybody in general, nonprofit organizations. If you'd like to be a part of this show, feel free to reach out to us at that email or send me a private message or a private PM, and we'd be glad to get you on the show. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, comment down below, communicate with us. Love to have some kind of feedback from you guys, and let us know how you like the show, what you like to listen to, and other business owners that you'd like to see. Davis, man, thank you so much for being a part of the show. It's been super awesome to have you on, and we'll be glad to have you back soon, man.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks for inviting me out, man. It's been a blast, and to be honest, I do love it. You know,
so
I'll be upfront about that. You know,
so we'll see you again. I'm sure we'll get him back on here to talk.
Hey, that's right, man.
All right, brother. Well, good to have you, man.
Thanks, man.